My middle sister was 3 years old when our mother had her schizophrenic break. So she's both old enough to remember our mother and father before the schizophrenic break, before the divorce, but she was also young enough that she hadn't hit that age yet where children start to build their own identity, that like 7, 8 years old. She wasn't at that mark yet. So our parents' divorce and our mother's mental illness affected her in a very different way than it affected the rest of us, because she had those memories, but they weren't ingrained in her yet. So when our parents first divorced, she was still very on the side of there's something wrong with our mother, but she didn't really understand what it was until she got a little bit older and our other sister was able to tell us what was going on, tell us about the schizophrenia, tell us about mental illness and all that. So when she was about 8 years old, our mother had her so heavily medicated that she was falling asleep in class. She couldn't stay awake. And she was basically medicated to the point as an 8-year-old where she was on a full adult dosage of ADHD medication and antidepressants. I fully believe that the medications my sister was put on really negatively affected her developmentally, and I think they have long-term lasting impacts that doctors just don't care about. So she would fall asleep during class. She would have to go in the middle of class to go take medications at the nurse's office. So she got bullied for it. She did not have friends. She got picked on, and she just didn't have a good relationship with other students. And she didn't have, I would say, a great relationship with us siblings either. Like, she was very manipulative and lying and would try and get us all in trouble for various reasons. She would try and do stuff very sneakily and not get in trouble for it. She developed a lot of the passive aggressiveness that's on our mother's side of the family. And she also takes the most after our mother. We do ultimately believe she has become schizophrenic. Like, we think there were warning signs as a child, and she just slowly had a development into schizophrenia, differently than her mother, who had a break on a very specific day. Now, since she didn't get along with people well, she didn't get along with me well, even though we were like 18 months apart. We were very close in age. She didn't have good social interactions, but then she was also like asleep for most of the time and really out of it. And she did try to do like some team sports at school. She did color guard, she did swimming, she did tennis, but she never stuck with anything more than about a year. She was very directionless. She didn't know where she wanted to go in life. She didn't know what she wanted to do, and she didn't have any like clear goal. She couldn't stick with a hobby for very long. Like, my other sister and I, we were very creative. We draw, cross stitch, so she would try and do some of that with us, but then she would never finish her projects. She would never finish anything because she couldn't stick with it long enough. She didn't have the attention span or the dedication or whatever you want to call it. And then when it comes to her relationship with me, so we were very close in age. We were only 18 months apart, and we were stuck together a lot of the time. We were stuck together in daycare. We were stuck together at home. And she did not like me, and she wasn't nice to me, and she would try and pick on me. So I was always healthier than her, and even though she was 18 months older than me, I was always the same size as her. So she physically could not pick on me the way she did when we were younger, because I had that growth spurt and was like strong. I was actually stronger than her by the time we got to middle school, because I eat as much as I can. I would always finish her portion of food because she wouldn't eat enough. And she didn't eat animal products. She started going vegetarian. She did the vegan thing for a bit. And so I was always healthier, I was stronger, and I was just as big as her. So it got to the point where if she tried to lie and say I did something that I didn't do, she tried to get me in trouble, then I would physically take it out on her because I could. And then there was one point when she tried to headbutt me, and she realized that it hurt her more than it hurt me. And that was when I would say our relationship really broke down, is when she realized she couldn't get at me the way that she used to, the way she wanted to. She couldn't get at me like I was her little sister, because I really wasn't littler than her. And then our mother continued to medicate her, and she got to the point where in high school she tried to act out a little bit by dyeing her hair blue. And then she had one teacher that year, and then the next year after she had cut all the blue hair off, and her teacher didn't remember her from the year before, because the only thing that like stood out from her was that blue hair. And so when she got rid of the blue hair, like she was just a part of the woodwork. Like nobody recognized her, nobody knew her, she didn't engage with anybody, she didn't build relationships with people outside of our household, she didn't have a lot of friends. She had a few friends, but her friends are always so weird. There's always something wrong with her friends. They're creepy, they don't understand social cues at all. Like they're very like her, but there's something always wrong with her friends. So when I moved in with our father, and our mother gave custody of me to our father, she had the choice to go with me. She had the choice for our mother to give custody of her to our father as well. But she was in her last year of school, and since she had such a hard time making friends and she was such a nobody, she didn't want to move school districts. So she stayed with our mother for that last year of school. And at that point, like we would call her, like my oldest sister and I would call and talk to her, but we didn't have as much of a relationship with her at the time until she moved down to live with us after she graduated high school. Now, she was way too soft to be able to withstand our father's just incessant like harassment and just yelling and being a tyrant. Like she couldn't handle that. She shut down physically. She couldn't deal with it the way that my older sister and I could, because we would both fight back physically, but also like mentally, emotionally. We would argue a lot, but she wouldn't. She would not argue. She just shut down. And so when like about a year after she moved down, we had got together at a family reunion, and he made an offhand comment like, oh, why don't you go live with your aunt and uncle? Maybe you'll get a job. Maybe you won't be sitting on my couch doing nothing. Because she had done nothing for an entire year. She never applied to any jobs. She didn't do anything. She didn't have friends. She didn't go out and do anything other than when my sister took us both to the Renaissance Fair and we volunteered. That was the only thing she ever did, was when we did something together. And she never had her own ideas of things she wanted to do. She never had her own hobbies. At this point, she was just sitting on the couch doing nothing. And my aunt and uncle were like, well, yeah, we already offered your other sisters to come out here. Like, you are all welcome to come and live with us whenever you want. That's totally cool. So they knew at the time that if they offered my sister a spot, that she would not go back to live with our father. He didn't realize it at the time, but that's what happened. So she left the family reunion, got a plane ticket, left the reunion with my aunt and uncle, and moved in with them. And at that time, I still had a pretty good relationship with her. We talked a lot, talked to my aunt and uncle a lot. And then when I turned 18, she actually bought my cell phone for me. She bought some stuff for me when I moved out with them. Like, she was excited that I was moving out there, and she was preparing for me to move. And And then things were better for a few years. So my aunt and uncle really did try to help her. They tried to prop her up. They helped her get into college. They helped get her a job. And by that I mean they applied to jobs for her. They applied to college for her. They got her a car. Like, they did everything for her, but it put her in a position where she had a job, she had college, she had some new friends in that area, and she was like learning to be an adult, as much of an adult as she ever could be, because she's really not an autonomous human being. And then when I moved in, I would sometimes, take her places. Like, I would say, hey, let's go here, let's go there, let's go do stuff. And at a certain point when I moved out is when she started really having problems. So I moved out when I was 20 years old, and she was a few years older than me, and she felt very self-conscious that I had moved out before her, and out of our aunt and uncle's house before her. And she never had a full-time job until she was about 25, 26 years old. And she at one point wanted to go to a college that was a few hours away. And we all told her, that's not a good idea for you. You shouldn't go. But she went anyway. And then when she came home, there was no support from her school to help her apply for tuition, help her apply for school the next semester. So her support network was just completely gone with that, and she hid it from us. And then my aunt and uncle were like, hey, why aren't you in school right now? The fall semester should have started. And she just sent them an email that she didn't have anybody to help her fill stuff out. She didn't know what to do, and so she just didn't do anything. And at that point she had already quit her job because she had gone to work at go to this other school. So my uncle got her a job working at the Jimmy John's that he worked at. Now, a few years later, probably about a year later, she just all of a sudden stopped working and didn't tell anybody. Again, didn't tell anybody that she just stopped working. And we wondered if she had gotten fired, but she didn't really go into it. She didn't say yes or no she got fired, but we thought she might have. And so they got her another job. They got her a job for a Halloween thing, working at a Halloween store. And at this point, I had my own group of friends. I had been working full-time for a while. I had my own apartment. I had my own car. And I would come over and I would take care of everybody. My aunt and uncle had health issues, so I would come and help take care of them. I would help take care of their dogs and cats. And I'd come help take care of my sister when my aunt and uncle weren't there because she needed an adult to take care of her. And there was a point where my aunt and uncle and I really had a discussion about her mental state. And we realized that she needed to go see a doctor. So we encouraged her to go see some sort of psychiatrist or whatever. And she was able to get it free because she didn't make much money at all. She wasn't working. And she started an antidepressant. At first it was really good for her. At first it really helped her. And then it stopped working, or she stopped taking it, or maybe at one point she wasn't able to go to her psychiatrist anymore, they changed. And then she started to come up with different diagnoses for herself. She was convinced that she had autism, which she did not. She was convinced that she had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which she tested negative for. And she was convinced that she had some other disease that she also tested negative for. I forget what it was. But at the same time, she was also diagnosed with POTS and then did not take care of herself in the way that you're supposed to take care of yourself with POTS, because you're supposed to take care of your diet and exercise lifestyle issues. And then she bought herself a cane, started walking around with a cane, and she bought a walker and started walking around with a walker. And I took her to the zoo at one point, and she sat on this walker and kicked herself around the zoo and like almost kicked herself into people who were in wheelchairs, like into people that like do definitely have some sort of disability. And it was just really weird and uncomfortable. And I knew growing up that she was always very loud and would say obnoxious things to people and like didn't know how to talk to people because she did not try to engage with people. She did not try to have friends. And so she was not socialized well. It's not autism, she just wasn't socialized well, and she didn't try to socialize well. But it became even more apparent the older she got how just uncomfortable she was in public and with other people. And then there were different warning signs right around that time. There was like a year or two where it really, the schizophrenia warning signs started coming out and flashing really bad. Things like when my uncle was in the hospital, she was wearing these little short shorts and like her labia was sticking out of them, and it was making the like nurses there very uncomfortable, making us very uncomfortable. And then she got a tattoo after being so deadly afraid of needles her whole life that she would not get a flu shot. If she would scream and have to be held down physically to get a flu shot, she went and got a tattoo. She was trying to get into makeup, like really like a 16-year-old trying to like find their own identity at like 26. She was putting on lipstick in my car while I was driving, and I was like, that looks like shit because I'm driving. You need to wait till I stop driving to put that on. And then she went and got a cat. Now my aunt and uncle they were animal hoarders. They had plenty of cats and dogs. And my sister did not need to bring another cat into this household. And also my aunt did not want her to bring another cat into the household. And so she had this cat in her little basement dwelling, which she did not take care of. She was a hoarder as well. She was not cleanly. She did not take showers. She didn't brush her teeth. She didn't take care of herself in any way. She left all her dirty clothes on a pile mixed in with the clean clothes. And then when she got this cat, she allowed it to pee on the bed and did not wash the bed. She just continued to sleep in it. And we did not want to support her with what she was doing. So my aunt and uncle told her, you have to take the cat back. We don't want this cat. But also, if you don't take the cat, then you have to move out. And so she tried to pawn her cat off on me. And at this point, my boyfriend and I went to go look at this cat, and we didn't like the cat. And so we said no. And so my sister was like, oh, well, can I move in with you with my cat? And I was like, no, I'm not gonna let you move in with me with your slovenliness. Like my apartment is my zone. It's clean. It makes me happy. It's my happy place. I'm not letting you in there with your hoard, and I'm not gonna let you make it a mess. And I don't like your cat. I don't want your cat around me. So my boyfriend and I said, no, we're not taking your cat. And we went and got a different cat. We went and got Cujo, and then we got married, and now we have a house, and life has moved on. But at the time, she was looking at me, and she made comments about how my younger sister has her own place. My younger sister has a 401k. My younger sister has a boyfriend and is probably gonna get married. And then she looked at what she was doing and just really continued to self-destruct at that point. She did ultimately have a social worker help her find a full-time job and got her into her own apartment. And then she really, like, she was weird about it because she moved out of my aunt and uncle's house without telling anybody because she wanted this cat. Like, she wanted to keep the cat. She didn't want to get rid of it. And so she had just moved out, finally told everybody she moved out, and then she did still have a little bit of a relationship with my aunt and uncle and me, but she grew farther apart. And then when COVID hit, my aunt died, and then she really kind of went off the deep end at that point and started getting into just like problems with her roommate and other stuff. She started going down the like trans ideology pipeline, which we think she was heavily influenced by the new psychiatrist she was seeing at the time. And then she did ultimately move back to Seattle, where we grew up. She, as far as I know, doesn't have any contact with our mother, our father, or our brother. We know she doesn't have contact with our oldest sibling because she doesn't talk to anyone. And every once in a while, she and I will talk to each other. She let me know when her grandma died. I let her know when our aunt died, that kind of thing. And it just, she was not a good sister to me. She was really awkward to be around towards the end of our relationship, really. And then she really did not treat people well. She isn't a good sister. Even when we were in the same room with her, she was always sitting on her laptop, just not engaged with society, not engaged with anybody else around her. So it's kind of similar to my brother in that I don't really want a relationship with her at this point, and she doesn't really want a relationship with me at this point. But it's still amicable when we do have to interact, even though we don't interact that much. But I would say she's very similar to my brother in that she was destroyed by our parents. She was not given the resources and the life and the support she needed growing up, and that is very, very clear in how it negatively affected her. And we do unfortunately think she got the schizophrenia from our mother, and that is what it is. And you can't force somebody to take medication to fix something when they don't think they have a problem. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope it was interesting, and I hope you're subscribed to my channel because I have another video in this series coming out next week. I will also post the full video at the end if you prefer to watch it all together. Please leave a like or a comment, and I'll see you all next time.